Running commentary. We are exploring listening to albums. It is a lost art form. We sat down and we listened to the artist's vision and concept. Amy Winehouse, Back to Black. Amy Winehouse burst onto the scene full of tattoos and wine. She really was a paradox. She struck the public very, very heavily with her very down-to-earth style of talking, with this almost out-of-body voice, which had an almost Lauryn Hill kind of effect. She was her own person. She was a Jewish girl that had grown up in London and was very, very close to her father, Frank, who was a taxi driver. The music on Back to Black is, I think, a culmination. It's a coming together of what the ideas on Frank were. When you think of songs like Fuck Me Pumps on Frank, great record. A lot of us feel that way about the kind of people that she's talking about. She wasn't afraid to say what she felt. And what made Amy Winehouse really important were these lyrics. These lyrics that suggested emotional weakness, addictions, inner turmoil. This is why we connected with Amy Winehouse. So when reviewing the album, we get very, very involved with our personal favorites because this was somebody who was singing our song in a lot of cases. In terms of Rehab, which is the opening track, it was very important for Amy's career, but it was the one song of hers from this album that I really did not like. It was sort of making a joke of her circumstances, and there was just something really messed up about that in retrospect. I hate that this was her biggest hit. It really irritates me. The things that ultimately kill this girl are what she has a hit record with. There's just something about that juxtaposition that I find very disturbing. It certainly wasn't helped by the rap version that was over here. I really just do not like Rehab in any way, shape, or form. You Know I'm No Good is the next track. Great song. Great brass. Mark Ronson, of course, is this blockbusting sound behind this album. He really envelops this and takes, you know, takes his lead from producers of the 60s, Motown sound, the wall of sound, all of those kind of ideas into the production here and frames this girl's voice brilliantly. Let's make no mistake here. He knew exactly how to package and work with Amy at her most potent, which is here on this second album. Me and Mr. Jones, what kind of fuckery is this? Exactly, what kind of fuckery is this? I think that Amy Winehouse also had this perfect name. She fit into British pub culture so well. I can just imagine sitting out on a terrace enjoying a nice pint with Amy's music. It was good for that. She was a good time girl. It's just so funny how her personality in these songs really can't be taken away from each other, isn't it? Just Friends is fine. You know, it doesn't offend me. I'm not upset by it. It's good. It's not my favorite. Back to Black is one of those, the title track is one of those tracks that initially, it was good, but I wasn't crazy about it. But as time went on, and particularly after she died, this was the track that really haunted me. The video, the whole look of the thing, this was really a very, very, very good song. I wish I kind of had more time with it. I just absolutely like everything about this. You know, we only said goodbye with words. What a great way of putting it. You know, so often we have unfinished business. It has the mystery factor, which is so important. She really was a rock star. Her music was kind of more on the R&B and soul thing, but the way she conducted herself and the way she lived her life on this very kind of high-octane, you know, all-or-nothing kind of trail of destruction, or fixing herself or trying to bring herself back from the edge, in public, by the way, which, can you imagine having to try and sort out your problems on screen with everyone looking? A lot of judgment. She sends in the big guns with Love Is a Losing Game. Absolutely brilliant songwriting. Perfectly delivered. Perfectly sung. Is it true? Is love a losing game? That's a question that's worth asking, isn't it? Love is a losing game. If we think of Sybil Fielder in her life, love certainly was a losing game. She fell in love with someone who was a bad egg. Somebody who was doing, you know, jail time. Somebody who was using drugs on a regular basis. Is that a judgment? Are we judging him? We can't help really but judge him just because of how we see him, perceive him to be in her relationship. Tears dry on their own, yeah. Decent song. This is a song that's very popular with other people. It's one of those songs. I don't dislike it. I think it's fine. I just like what I like so much more that it kind of slips down my ranking. The best song for me is Wake Up Alone. This is how I got acquainted with Amy Winehouse's music. Very rare that I do this, especially having a slightly critical ear. Not meaning to, but having a slightly critical ear. When something takes me to a device or to the stereo to find out what it is, you've done quite a good job, because I'm not easily moved to make such a move. Wake Up Alone was playing in a restaurant that I was working on in 2nd Avenue, and I went up to the stereo and I just had to know who this was. This record was absolutely brilliant. It's still my favorite thing. And I remember we had some British tourists coming into the restaurant. And as I often do with Brits who come over to New York, is I'll get talking to them about stuff. And I said, so who's this Amy Winehouse chick? She goes, well, she's very good, but something's not right, you know. They were like this and saying, you know, she's not looking very hopeful for her, which, you know, I think we all kind of felt that way a little bit, almost as though it was inevitable. Some Unholy War, decent enough song. He Can Only Hold Her. Again, not a bad song. I'm not going into too much detail with these tracks. This is a great album. It's unusual that I can pick up something from the last 10 years and actually sit here and give it a full review and look over it and be able to tolerate it or stand it. That's the realness that Amy has, and that's why we absolutely had to review this album. To recap, Back to Black, Love is a Losing Game, and Wake Up Alone are the 3 must-haves for me on this. The Absolutely Nots would be Rehab is my least favourite song on this album. I do miss Amy Winehouse terribly. I do wish that she got it together to make another great album. I think what I walk away with after reviewing this album is, what did she bring to my life? And what she brought to my life was just how sad it can be to live in suffering. Just how sad it can be to not be understood, to be underestimated, to be judged. And I think that the world was very, very harsh with Amy Winehouse and not as understanding as they could have been. And the media furore that surrounded her downward spiral was spiteful, aggressive, and unnecessary. In final summation of this album, I will award Back to Black 87%. If you'd like to subscribe to the channel, recommend it to friends, post comments. Also, if you have an album that you'd like to hear reviewed, we welcome your requests.